Imagine a quiet corner of a bustling high school, a space where shadows clung a little tighter, and the laughter of others felt distant, alien. Here, you would find a student perpetually under the watchful, cruel gaze of a group of delinquents. Their bullying was relentless, a daily ritual that stripped him of his dignity, leaving him with a profound self-loathing. He despised his own inability to retaliate, but that hatred extended outwards, encompassing all those who stood by, their eyes averted, silently condoning his pain even as they possessed the power to intervene. Above all, though, he held an equal contempt for his tormentors and for the pathetic self he believed he had become. This visceral yearning for a different life, a chance to rewrite his story, consumed his waking thoughts and shadowed his dreams. And then it arrived. He found himself inexplicably pulled into another realm, a new world entirely. This, he believed, was his redemption, an opportunity to rebuild, to act. Yet the grandiosity of his new title, the Messiah, Yamato Taku, felt ill-fitting, even mocking, for this new reality presented an existence far more daunting than any schoolyard bully. This alternate world lived under the looming threat of a being known only as the Demon Lord. Its sheer power cast a long, chilling shadow, instilling terror, and eventually eroding the very fabric of daily life for its inhabitants. As he grappled with this profound responsibility, Yamato Taku was honest with himself. How could a boy who once cowered before bullies possibly stand against such a force, much less sacrifice his life in the attempt? But then, a pivotal encounter shifted the currents of his fate. He met the Saint Elwise, a figure who ignited within him a dormant strength, teaching him to rise not just for himself, but for the people who now looked to him. Slowly, painstakingly, he began to shed the skin of his former self, embracing the mantle of someone upon whom others depended. His resolve hardened. This time, he would not fail. He would dedicate every fiber of his being to the betterment of this world and its people, driven by a profound need to prove his worth. The path was arduous, as it always is for a novice thrust into legend, but days bled into months, and his unwavering dedication, his relentless training, began to bear fruit. Yet, a cruel irony often twists the threads of destiny. Despite his tireless efforts, despite the undeniable good he sought to do, the people continued to see him not as a savior, but as something monstrous. Months after his intense regimen, Yamato found himself standing before a gathered multitude, prepared for execution. His extraordinary skills, his burgeoning power, had not earned him adoration, but fear, transforming him into an object of dread in their eyes. The executioner's pronouncement echoed through the square. Yamato was merely another worlder, a stranger wielding a power said to be capable of defeating the Demon Lord. But in their collective apprehension, a chilling logic took hold. Before he could, like others before him, allegedly betray humanity and shatter their world, he had to be removed. So, instead of accolades, instead of gratitude for his efforts, he found himself bound by magic sealing braces, treated less like a hero and more like a dangerous beast. As the executioner solicited his final words, a roar erupted from the crowd, a frantic demand for his swift demise. Yamato was afforded no chance to defend himself, no moment to reflect on the life he had lived. Yet, even in that terrifying finality, he maintained an uncanny composure, refusing to give them the spectacle of his despair. Among the sea of faces, however, one soul wept for him, Elwise. She fought with every ounce of her power and authority, but it was not enough. Seeing her struggle, her tears shed on his behalf, brought an unexpected solace to Yamato. Whether in Japan or this strange, new world, he had never truly found acceptance, but at least one person grieved for him now. He clung to the fleeting thought that, given more time, his life might have truly been a happy one. Before those good memories could fully form, a crimson spray erupted, and his head separated from his body. Then, a sudden, disorienting shift. He found himself lying in a hospital bed. For a dizzying moment, he wondered if he had somehow returned to his original world, but the math simply didn't add up. He had died, undeniably, in that other place, and the 3 years he had spent there, they couldn't possibly have been a dream. The impossibility of it all swirled in his mind, a pointless riddle. For now, clarity demanded he first assess his immediate surroundings. Catching his reflection in the window, a jolt of shock ran through him. His body was covered in bruises, several bones fractured. An impossible thought sparked. Could the powers he'd learned in that other world still be his? He tried, and to his astonishment, it worked. The pain receded, and he found he could stand. The existence of magic meant his experiences were no dream, yet the persistent whisper of unreality, the idea that this too might be an elaborate hallucination, remained. Suddenly, a woman entered, accompanied by a doctor. She was, supposedly, his mother. Their excitement at seeing Yamato move was palpable. They hadn't expected such a swift recovery, given the severity of his fractures. What struck him, though, was the complete absence of memory concerning this woman. Unable to explain the complexities of his past, he feigned amnesia. When his mother pressed for details of his accident, he concocted a story. Playing with friends on the school roof, a broken fence, a slip, a fall. The doctor, believing him, inquired if he remembered his name, Kyusagi Taku. He affirmed with a nod. With the immediate crisis seemingly resolved, the doctor expressed disbelief at Taku's rapid healing, an impossibility even for a skilled healer. This surprised Taku, who hadn't considered the presence of healers in this world. Minutes later, Taku's father arrived, tears of relief streaming down his face, expressing joy that his son was alive, even if he didn't remember them. Taku, adrift in confusion, absorbed this outpouring of parental love, a sensation entirely new to him. He made an unspoken promise to this body. He would find a way to return it to its rightful owner. But for now, he simply wanted to bask in this unexpected affection. His parents, however, remained concerned, leading to a battery of medical tests. All results confirmed his robust health, and he was discharged within a day. On the journey home, the hospital's technology struck him as strangely futuristic, yet everyone spoke Japanese, suggesting he was, indeed, in Japan. Still, the city itself possessed an unfamiliar cleanliness. If his memory served, his previous life as Yamato Taku had unfolded around the year 2000. A quick glance at the news scrolling on the car's steering wheel screen confirmed the date, the end of May, ushering in the summer of 2040. 40 years had passed since his death as Yamato, but the passage of time wasn't the most shocking revelation. This new world now harbored hunters, individuals who risked their lives daily to protect its citizens. Among the monsters they battled were ogres, a fact that deeply perplexed Taku. These creatures belonged to the other world, not this one. Seeking answers, he questioned his parents. His mother spoke of hunters as doing incredible work, noting the fatal consequences of even a moment's clumsiness. The casual mention of magic as a normal tool of combat underscored that this extraordinary reality was, for them, utterly mundane. Japan, Taku realized, despite its familiar name, now eerily mirrored the world he had left behind. It wasn't long before a monster materialized directly in their path. Instinctively, Taku unleashed the powers he'd honed in the other world, saving his parents and himself. Just as relief washed over them, a gate break ripped open. From it, a phalanx of ogres began to emerge. Taku knew ogres. Even the trained knights of the kingdom he once served required several to take one down. An ordinary person would be annihilated. But he could deal with this quickly, he knew, with his magic. A flicker of hesitation. The old adage, "the nail that sticks out gets hammered down," echoed in his mind, a painful reminder of his previous life. And this body wasn't truly his. Drawing undue attention might complicate the eventual return of its owner. The only sensible option, he decided, was to run. But as he prepared to flee, he saw his parents nearly caught in the ogre's grasp. The decision made itself. He unleashed his power. To shield his parents from the shock of his abilities, he claimed a nearby hunter had arrived to help, providing them a thin veil of comfort as they began their escape. One problem remained. His initial attack had been followed by another, seemingly from an unknown source. Could this become a troublesome complication? He pushed the thought aside, for his parents remained in shock. Their car destroyed, they were forced to walk home. The day had been long and terrifying, yet they were alive. The sheer scale of the incident, coupled with the lack of casualties, felt miraculous. After an hour or two, they arrived home. Taku's new life had truly begun. Settling in, he understood that to navigate this existence as Kyusagi Taku, he needed information. He searched for a diary, hoping to find insights into the original owner, but there was nothing. Only magazines about hunters, a clear indication of this body's previous fascination. His room was filled with them. Through these, he discovered a ranking system for hunters, elevating them to a celebrity-like status. Tucked within the pages, a note from the original owner expressed a fervent desire to join a specific guild if he ever had the chance to become a hunter. A strange feeling settled over Taku. This was Japan, yet it felt profoundly unlike the Japan he remembered. 3 years in another world had accustomed him to the bizarre, but this was different. He held a smartphone for the first time, a device he struggled to master but found himself enjoying. Yet even as he learned, the notification sounds consistently startled him. It was a peculiar truth. Accepting messages on this phone, knowing it drew from Taku's parents' funds, made him more nervous than facing the demon lord ever had. Reassured by his mother, who insisted he keep learning, he persisted. His mother also, conveniently, wanted him to postpone school due to his condition, a welcome respite given the text message warning from bullies to stay alert. With ample free time, he delved into his smartphone, researching. 30 years ago, after his own summoning to the other world, gates had begun connecting Earth to other dimensions, unleashing monsters. Modern weapons were useless against these unknown entities, which slaughtered people indiscriminately. Then, as if from nowhere, magicians appeared, fighting back. Magic, they claimed, was a skill anyone could learn, quickly becoming an essential subject. Those who studied it became magi, and those who defeated monsters became hunters, their roles crucial in managing gate breaks and protecting daily life. This was the narrative Taku pieced together online. To understand more, he decided to explore the city himself. Society, he observed, had profoundly adapted to magic. The world felt unreal, vastly different from the one he knew. 40 years had changed everything, and people had grown accustomed to it. He didn't wish to return to his own time, but a profound sense of loneliness settled upon him. During his stroll, a woman's scream pierced the air. A bag snatcher, using magic to escape. Without hesitation, Taku used his own abilities to apprehend the culprit. The woman, profusely grateful, expressed awe at his magic. Realizing he had been faster than intended, Taku resolved to be more careful. An elderly woman, a silent observer, offered him a handful of candies as a token of appreciation. The gesture sparked a memory of his own grandmother. 40 years, a changed world, yet the fundamental kindness of humanity remained. He was glad for that. On his walk home, the bully who had sent the warning earlier emerged, clearly intent on confronting him. This entitled young man's arrogance struck Taku as unchanged by era or world. Standing face to face, Taku's instincts, honed by battles far grander, stirred. The bully ranted, demanding deference, insisting Taku call him Arikun, a term signifying superiority. He blamed Taku for the police suddenly appearing at his house, which had resulted in his father beating him. As the bully's voice escalated, Taku remained impassive. 40 years, he mused, and characters like this still existed. The original Taku, he realized, had faced a similar torment. But compared to his past life, where fear had paralyzed him, facing this, Adaki felt like confronting an angry dog. Fighting dragons in another world had been genuinely terrifying. This was trivial. Taku had grown. Adaki, insulted by Taku's silent amusement, lunged. Taku, no longer afraid, effortlessly dodged. He considered simply sending Adaki flying, but flashing his true power was unwise. Instead, he planned to make Adaki stumble by stomping the ground. Yet, when Adaki started badmouthing Taku's parents, the calm facade shattered. Taku punched him. Adaki, enraged by Taku's unexpected resistance, resorted to offensive magic. Before Taku could fully react, a gate break manifested. A single punch from the emerging monster sent Adaki sprawling, beaten within seconds. Taku felt a pang of worry, but Adaki, though injured, was clearly not dead. With no bystanders and Adaki incapacitated, Taku decided to handle the monster himself. One powerful blow inflicted significant damage. After dispatching the ogre, he turned his attention to the gate. Leaving it open was unthinkable. Recalling its resemblance to a summoning skill from the other world, he theorized that destroying the magic circle might make it vanish. His theory proved correct. Moments later, a group of officers arrived. Taku, wanting to remain unseen, quickly departed. The officials were stunned. A bloody ogre defeated in one hit? The reports indicated the monster was already dead and the gate closed upon their arrival, an utterly unexpected outcome. They found a collapsed boy, Adaki, with only minor bruises, evidently having fought a classmate. They concluded Adaki was responsible for everything. However, a higher-ranking officer remained unconvinced. She sensed insufficient mana from Adaki to accomplish such a feat. Then, a memory resurfaced, Taku killing a monster to save his parents. Intrigued, she returned to the Hunters Association to investigate further. A bloody ogre, she knew, required multiple hunters to subdue. The fact that an unknown individual had arrived and dispatched it before the association spoke volumes. She needed to understand what was truly happening. After weeks of recovery, it was time for Taku to return to his studies. Kazumi High School, nestled in metropolitan Tokyo, felt strangely familiar to him. As he walked toward his classroom, he recalled his father's worried expression, offering him more time if he wasn't ready. Taku knew he was fine. The original Taku, he reasoned, wouldn't want to repeat a year due to missed classes. His task, then, was to resume the role of a student. On campus, students chattered, a normal high school scene. A carefree energy permeated the air. Why, then, Taku wondered, had the real Taku been driven to despair, even contemplating ending his life in such an environment? The only explanation. Perhaps the original Taku lacked friends. His circumstances, he realized, mirrored his own previous life more closely than he'd thought. The key difference: he had been granted a second chance in another world, a chance to practice magic, share fierce glances with fellow adventurers, and confront powerful demons. He remembered Weiss's dream, a world where everyone could laugh freely. Snapping out of his introspection with a subtle slap to his cheek, he accepted that there was no turning back. It was time to take that first step, and thanks to Weiss, he possessed the courage to do it. Entering his classroom, he found everyone already seated. The teacher announced his return, explaining his amnesia and requesting everyone's support. Taku settled into his seat, observing his classmates' apparent indifference. Then Adaki swaggered in, basking in the newfound belief that he had single-handedly defeated the bloody ogre. His self-importance was boundless, expected from someone as great as him. Yet, spotting Taku in the back, a flush of embarrassment crossed Adaki's face. Taku was the sole witness to his humiliating defeat by the ogre. Instead of his usual taunts, Adaki ignored him, a deviation that puzzled many. As the class's attention remained on Adaki, a timid, bespectacled boy expressed concern for Taku's amnesia. Realizing Taku likely didn't remember him, he introduced himself as Sawamura Takuo. Like the original Taku, Takuo admired hunters, which had fostered their friendship. This surprised Taku. He hadn't expected the original body's owner to have friends. By dismissal, Taku felt an unexpected exhaustion. Though his time in the other world had undeniably strengthened him physically and mentally, his intellect, always a weaker point, hadn't similarly benefited. He'd neglected his studies even in high school, and now, with textbooks no longer made of paper, learning felt more arduous. Takuo, however, seemed amazed at how well Taku appeared to be coping with his amnesia. Taku reassured him, stating he was improving daily. Having chatted for a bit, Taku subtly inquired about the original owner's personality. Without hesitation, Takuo declared Taku the kindest person in the world. Their conversation was interrupted by the bullies. Adaki, unusually, kept his distance from teasing Taku, perhaps still haunted by their recent encounter. He rationalized it, claiming involvement with Taku would only bring trouble. Their attention, therefore, shifted to Takuo. They feigned a trip to the library for studying, but Taku, knowing their kind, understood their true intentions. He asked his classmates where they had gone. The rooftop, his initial guess, was now sealed due to his own accident. The only other industrial area behind the school remained. Rushing to help his friend, Taku's behavior struck his classmates as utterly uncharacteristic of his pre-amnesia self. Meanwhile, in the industrial yard, Adaki and his cronies relentlessly punched Takuo for failing to answer their questions. Taku observed from the shadows, an internal conflict raging. He desperately wanted to intervene, yet he wished to avoid drastically altering Takuo's circumstances, to avoid creating a scene. But the image of Takuo willingly stepping forward to protect him, a silent guardian, surged forth. Still, it wasn't enough to propel him into immediate action. Minutes dragged on as Adaki's group treated Takuo like a plaything, mockingly urging him to call for Taku. What Takuo said next ignited a fire in Taku's heart. Takuo confessed his guilt for allowing Taku, his friend, to suffer at the hands of these bullies while he remained safe. Now that Taku was back, Takuo vowed never to abandon him again. Hearing this, a warmth spread through Taku. It was the first time someone had been willing to risk themselves for his sake. It was his turn to protect. Seconds later, Takuo fainted. The bullies scoffed, calling him scrawny, lacking endurance. But to Taku, his friend was as strong as anyone. His sudden presence stunned the bullies, who hadn't expected him to confront them. They attributed his courage to the amnesia, believing him cray-cray, easily beatable. They were gravely mistaken. A single punch from Taku sent them sprawling, utterly shocking them. Adaki's men, however, were too proud to flee, attempting to fight back, only to be effortlessly defeated. Seeing his teammates suffer fueled Adaki's fury, and he prepared to fight Taku himself. But Taku stopped him, issuing a warning. If Adaki didn't curb his barking, he would annoy others. Adaki, refusing to show weakness before his friends, still puffed out his chest, asserting he wouldn't appear weaker than Taku. His friends, similarly defiant, rallied behind him, despite their utter lack of a chance. Taku, unfazed, saw only an easier way to dispatch them all. He remembered a painful lesson from the war against the Demon Lord's army. His honesty, his misguided sympathy, had led him to release a captured foe who claimed to be coerced. That mistake had cost an entire village. Never again would he be half-hearted. Now, enraged, he vowed to break these bullies completely. But before he could act, a blue gate appeared, causing panic among the three. An ogre emerged, considered the most dangerous monster from such a gate. Adaki's friends, however, were relieved, believing Adaki, who had supposedly defeated a bloody ogre, would handle it. Unable to reveal the truth, Adaki played along, puffing himself up, feigning an attack with his magic. As expected, his magic was pathetically weak compared to true hunters. The ogre dispatched him with one punch. His friends fled in terror. Taku, meanwhile, stood calmly to the side. The ogre, naturally, charged him. With a single, powerful blow, Taku effortlessly defeated the monster that had instilled such fear in them. Adaki, witnessing everything, now truly feared Taku, calling him a monster. As Taku approached, Adaki pleaded for him to stay away. Adaki, it turned out, had entirely the wrong idea. Taku simply wanted to help, using his healing power to alleviate Adaki's pain. Then, with a mere touch, Taku caused the ground to crack. He instructed Adaki to claim credit for defeating the ogre, emphasizing his desire for a peaceful, inconspicuous life. Adaki initially resisted, but after some persuasion, agreed to play the part. Taku also warned him to cease bullying Takuo and others, threatening fatal consequences if he failed. With hunters on their way, Taku, carrying Takuo, hurried away, reminding Adaki to maintain the deception. A short time later, at Odon Academy, a hunter training technical school, a dispatched hunter reported to her superiors. She had been sent to deal with a gate and ogre at Kazmi High School, but everything was already handled. The lone male student at the scene, presumably Adaki, claimed responsibility, but the residual mana readings were far beyond a normal human's output, indicating a monster-level presence. The hunter's fear, despite her own power, confirmed that the true actor was no ordinary person. The organization head, intrigued by this fascinating case, decided to oversee the investigation personally. Reviewing the reports, she instinctively felt that the person who had confronted the monster was someone other than Adaki. A report mentioning Adaki arguing with someone before the bloody ogre incident further solidified her suspicion. The vanished individual was clearly the true culprit. Lacking concrete evidence, she resolved to question Adaki herself. For the sake of her family and the people, no irregularity would go unchecked. This leading hunter was S-rank Sakura, and she had now arrived at Taku's high school, seeking answers. The following days saw a dramatic shift in Adaki. His classmates, including his friends, were shocked by his sudden transformation in both behavior and dress. It was comical yet strange, an overnight change that Adaki, surprisingly, managed to maintain. When his friends attempted to tease Taku, Adaki abruptly stopped them, perplexing Takuo. But before the situation could grow even stranger, Taku arrived, instantly altering the atmosphere. After a brief catch-up, Takuo couldn't resist asking about Adaki's peculiar morning behavior. Taku, opting not to reveal the truth, simply suggested Adaki might have decided to be more diligent, a positive change in Takuo's eyes. As the bell rang, signaling the start of classes, Sakura entered Kazumi High School, beginning her investigation. In an age where all hunters were managed by the association, the thought of someone with immense power operating independently deeply concerned her. She was determined to find this irregular. As she prepared to enter the school, she encountered another S-rank hunter, Mijima Jin, also known as Orachi. Orachi, cutting off her explanation, simply stated it was fine. Sakura inquired about his presence, given he was the guild master of Odo's guild, responsible for the Tokai region. Orachi casually assured her that his guild had many excellent members, making his presence there unnecessary. Their conversation was laced with palpable tension. Sakura suspected Orachi wasn't there without reason. Odo's guild was known for its aggressive scouting. He was likely there for the irregular, hoping to recruit a talented hunter and augment his guild's power. Their discussion was abruptly halted by a sudden gate break within the school. Students panicked, teachers urged calm and an orderly evacuation. Sakura sprang into action, heading toward the commotion. To her surprise, Orachi did not follow. Walking in the opposite direction, he declared Sakura could handle such small fries herself, adding that he wasn't technically free for such trivialities. Sakura bristled at his dereliction of duty, unaware that Orachi sensed something far more potent than mere small fries. The magical power emanating from the gate break was unexpectedly formidable, and he needed to prepare before confronting it. Sakura was left to handle the chaos alone. Upon Sakura's arrival, the school was in utter disarray, overrun by more monsters than she had anticipated. She used her powers to save as many students as possible, meticulously checking every room. To her surprise, some students, even without formal training, were holding their own. Skeletons and ghouls, after all, were low-ranked monsters. Yet this was an unprecedented situation for them, potentially disastrous. Sakura continued to aid everyone she could. Rushing toward the gate source, she was stunned to find Taku, calmly forming a magic circle to subdue the chaos. The moment she saw him, she knew, this was the irregular she sought. Realizing he had been seen, Taku immediately tried to flee. Sakura, however, was equally determined. Utilizing her lightning boost, she swiftly pursued him. She noted Taku was using only a physical boost, yet he was astonishingly fast, surpassing average users. Her own lightning boost should have given her a greater advantage, yet he kept pace. The possibility of her catching him remained, so Taku dared not look back, acutely aware of her oppressive presence even at a distance. He could go faster. Physical boost amplified the user's abilities. But this, he realized, was the limit of Kusagi Taku's body. In his original, trained form, he would have been miles away, yet he couldn't dwell on that. Magic, after all, stemmed from the soul and he controlled it. Still, complacency was dangerous. The thought of training Takuo's body crossed his mind. For now, secrecy was paramount. With an aerial boost, he vanished, his speed dissolving him into thin air. Sakura, for the moment, gave up the chase. Minutes later, Taku was far from the school. Classes, he assumed, were canceled. No reason to return. As he walked home, he pondered. The one who chased him was likely a hunter. He had imagined them to be like the chivalric orders or adventurers of his other world, but the reality was strikingly different. He resolved never to drop his guard again. Upon arriving home, his mother enveloped him in a tight hug, overflowing with relief. News of ogres at Casmi High had reached them, and his unanswered phone had fueled their worry. Speaking of which, he began searching for his phone, believing it lost at school. His mother surprised him. A friend had brought it back. That friend was in the living room, she said, urging him to thank them himself. He froze. It was Sakura, observing his shocked expression with a hint of fascination. Taku, still intent on concealing his identity, feigned ignorance, thanking her for retrieving his phone. Sakura, seeing through his act, cut straight to the chase. She wanted to ask him about a few things. Taku, maintaining his innocent facade, offered an awkward smile, inquiring what questions she had. Without hesitation, she mentioned yesterday's abandoned factory incident and the bloody ogre incident. At this, Taku realized evasion was futile. This was far worse than he'd imagined. He couldn't flee, nor could he openly discuss such matters with his mother present. He quickly found a way to distract her, and thankfully, she left them. To speak privately, he led Sakura to his room. Sakura immediately demanded, "Who exactly are you?" The bluntness startled Taku. He knew he couldn't reveal his true identity. Sakura pressed on, stating that depending on his answer, she might have to restrain him. Taku began to perceive her as a rather boorish person, sensing that a poorly constructed lie would be easily exposed. Yet, telling her the truth that he was a hero from another world would surely be dismissed as a joke. His prolonged silence began to try Sakura's patience. She pinned him against the wall, creating an awkward intimacy. She clearly believed he was hiding something nefarious. To set the record straight, Taku explained his amnesia, claiming he remembered nothing. But if that were true, how could he fight monsters? How did he possess such keen magical senses, remaining calm even in emergencies? Taku, trying to keep the conversation from devolving into an argument, calmly offered a believable excuse. He wasn't sure himself, he simply found he could do these things. As expected, this explanation strained credibility, deepening Sakura's suspicion. Unsatisfied, she asked why he concealed his power. Surprisingly, Taku answered truthfully. He hadn't wanted to use his sudden power because it would frighten people. He also wished to avoid worrying his parents and had no desire to become a hunter. Sakura scoffed. No one, she believed, would forego the opportunity for high social status, fame, and all the accompanying benefits. Taku, with quiet conviction, replied that he needed none of it. A peaceful life was enough. This unexpected depth in his reasoning surprised Sakura. She began to understand his perspective. As long as he didn't use his power for malicious purposes, the Hunter Association had no grounds to interfere. She promised to make it appear as if she had handled the recent incidents, preventing further investigation by the association. Taku was taken aback by her unexpected compassion. Sakura explained that while she usually didn't believe things outright, Taku's actions had consistently been aimed at protecting others. This realization opened her eyes to the truth. Their discussion concluded. Before leaving, Sakura apologized for chasing him and for her aggressive behavior in his home. Taku, feeling uncomfortable at her bow, quickly reassured her. Then, with a serious expression, Sakura urged him to consider becoming a hunter for the sake of peace. His power, she noted, couldn't remain hidden forever. But if he was truly determined to live a normal, peaceful life, she would do everything in her power to protect that choice. Her words resonated deeply, echoing Weiss. He realized that good people still existed in this world. A few days later, Taku embarked on a run, finding solace in exercise while school remained temporarily closed. During his run, a black gate suddenly appeared. Authorities arrived swiftly, securing the area. A black gate, they knew, took time to fully open and for powerful monsters to emerge, allowing a window to defeat the boss monster and prevent damage. Observing the large crowd gathering, Taku wondered if they were awaiting hunters. He also pondered if the gate led to a different world, perhaps his own. The thought of entering crossed his mind. As he contemplated, the Wingard party appeared, a C-rank group renowned among the populace. Their entrance assured the crowd that fear was no longer necessary. The party of 4 Shishaka Tomita, Yuichi Amamatsui, and their leader, Gato Mamoru, invigorated the onlookers. The sight of their bond evoked Taku's memories of his time in the other world. Gato Mamoru, in particular, reminded him of General Grot, his old training partner. A faint smile touched Taku's lips. A brief flashback. General Grot, the kingdom army's leader, had taught Taku swordsmanship and combat. Despite endless training, Taku's skills had always fallen short against him. Yet Grot never underestimated the Messiah, the one chosen by God, believing Taku's physical and magical abilities would grow astonishingly. Taku, confused, had once asked why he still couldn't land a hit. Grot explained, no matter one's speed, a powerful attack always revealed an opening. It was about strategic application. Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden appearance of an unknown demon. While they were disoriented, the demon exploited an opening, injuring the general. Taku, paralyzed by fear, could do nothing. Grot, true to his nature, prioritized others. He urged Taku to flee while the demon was distracted. But Taku, unable to abandon him, especially after Grot's heartfelt plea not to lose anyone else, having already lost his wife and son, finally moved. He rushed forward, slashing the demon in half. He had to fight, he realized, to fully shed his old self. With fierce determination, Taku unexpectedly defeated the demon, shocking Grot. Now, Gato Mamoru's demeanor evoked similar parallels for Taku. Back in the present, Taku had been running for 3 hours. His ears felt strange, but he pushed the thought aside, focusing on increasing his endurance with more cardio. His diet, he decided, required no changes. His new body easily shed weight. This body felt different, demanding adjustments to maintain its natural form. As he quietly contemplated his fitness routine, the Wingard party returned, but a problem had arisen. Shishika was still inside the gate, having sacrificed herself as a decoy. Gato was consumed by guilt. Taku realized he was witnessing a diverging future, and without intervention, things would worsen. Suddenly, he found himself inside the gate, having unconsciously entered while lost in thought. Since he was already there, he had no choice but to search for Shishika. As he scanned the area, monsters took notice. Could he survive this predicament? A strange sense of nostalgia washed over Taku. He couldn't discern if it was the alternate world or simply the forest itself, but the monsters were eerily familiar. Then, the realization, this world was indeed the same as the one he had inhabited. Suddenly, Shishika burst into view, pursued by a one-eyed monster. Disoriented, still worried about her teammates, she stumbled. The monster lunged. Before disaster struck, Taku blocked the attack with ice magic, shocking Shishika. He expressed relief at arriving in time. Shishika had bruises, but that seemed to be the extent of her injuries. To avoid revealing his identity, Taku claimed to be a mere passerby, but Shishika didn't believe him. Observant, she recognized his outfit and voice from outside the gate. Taku, caught, had no reason to lie. Shishika, it turned out, was a hunter scout, meticulous in her observations. Before things could escalate, Taku urged her to move quickly, noting everyone outside was worried. Shishika was overjoyed that her team was safe. Meanwhile, somewhere around the corner, the gate boss anticipated the main event. As they made their way back to the gate, Shishika pondered Taku's immense power, especially since he carried no equipment. His spell was beginner level, yet incredibly effective, and he was dressed as if for a casual stroll, not a monster-infested gate. Just who was this kid? Her contemplation was cut short when Taku abruptly stopped. An attack from the gate boss hurtled towards them, a massive explosion causing Shishika to nearly faint with fear. Taku scooped her up, carrying her to safety. The gate boss, surprised by Taku's power and the sudden disappearance of her pet, realized she needed to escalate her own game. Knowing the ensuing chaos, Taku asked Shishika if she had anything to obscure their exit from the gate. She did. At the gate, he asked her not to reveal his presence, a request she already understood. He ensured she exited first, remaining unseen. The gate boss, frustrated at the curtailed game, hoped to meet them again as the gate closed. Outside, the party rejoiced at Shishika's safe return. Taku, lurking behind trees, confirmed her well-being, still maintaining his anonymity. Days later, classes resumed. Adaki had indeed undergone a drastic transformation, not just in behavior but in appearance. More surprisingly, Taku, Adaki, and Takuo were temporarily attending Odon Academy. Their own school, Kazmi High, was still undergoing repairs from the gate break. This news shocked them. It turned out that following the incident, hunter training schools had allocated space for classes to continue, aligning curricula closer to an internship. The larger temporary school also served as a shelter. This was a completely new experience, exciting for most, especially the esteemed Odon Academy. Takuo, however, harbored mixed feelings about Adaki's presence. Taku reassured him Adaki wouldn't dare cause trouble in such a prestigious institution. Taku urged Takuo to forget Adaki for now and enjoy the experience. Odon Academy was, as expected, impressive. The famous hunter Takamina Sakura was there, alongside many top-ranked graduates. It felt like a dream for Takuo. As he gushed, Taku noticed nearly all students carried weapons. Takuo interrupted him, asking if he'd met Sakura in person, given she had picked up his smartphone and knew his address. Taku, having no reason to lie, admitted he had. Takuo was a little jealous. Curiosity piqued, he asked if they'd exchanged contact information. Taku, with an awkward smile, evaded the question. Takuo, thankfully, dropped it, instead mentioning Sakura's fervent, almost extreme fan club. If Taku got close to her, he warned he needed to be careful. Just then, Sakura entered, captivating everyone. Heads turned. Taku couldn't deny her presence was like an unattainable flower, as Takuo would describe it, even on school grounds. He wondered if she had personal friends. As Sakura glanced his way, he found himself smiling and greeting her, shocking Takuo, who'd never seen Taku act that way. Realizing his uncharacteristic behavior, Taku felt a sudden shyness and hurried to the cafeteria, leaving Takuo behind. After classes, Sakura and Taku met. Sakura informed him that despite his identity remaining secret after helping Shishika, curiosity about him was growing. People were conducting their own investigations. She warned him there was a limit to her ability to cover for him. The Hunter Association was in an uproar, making things difficult. Based on her investigation, she explained, they could estimate the strength of a Black Gate's boss by its mana. The gate the Windguard party had entered was only D rank, yet a rank Cyclops had appeared, causing them significant struggle, prolonging a 10-minute mission. To complicate matters, the irregular Taku, unregistered with the association, had appeared. Was he friend or foe? Sakura also theorized that Taku's reported surge of magical power during the incident would inevitably cause an uproar. Taku felt a pang of guilt for intervening without thorough consideration. Noticing her harsh tone, Sakura softened. She assured him there was no need to dwell on it. His actions were undeniably correct. Despite his special power, he was still a citizen who desired a peaceful life, a life she believed he deserved to protect. From now on, she asked him to promise to prioritize his own safety. With a captivating smile, she urged him to leave dangerous tasks to the hunters, reminding him of his parents' worry. With other pressing matters, they ended their meeting. Walking back to class, Taku understood Sakura's kindness, the quality that earned her such admiration. He barely had time to relax before a horde of goblins charged. He no longer feared such abrupt situations, but after his conversation with Sakura, he hesitated to act first. After a minute, a group of hunter students rushed in, swiftly dispatching the goblins. Taku noted their flashy techniques. To his surprise, it was Sakura's fan club, the very one Takuo had mentioned. The club president, Baudouin, was as energetic as his members, and a rank group eager to befriend Taku, who seemed less than enthusiastic. Taku's quiet demeanor intrigued Baudouin, a rare sight. He concluded Taku must be wondering about Odon society and launched into an explanation. Baudouin, who deeply admired Sakura, described her as a beautiful goddess needing protection. Those who shared this admiration gathered to protect the city. As their numbers grew, the group became the school's largest guild, safeguarding public peace. This made Taku wonder if it was more than just a fan club. Baudouin elaborated. The only condition to join was to love and respect Sakura, regardless of whether one was a hunter, Magnus, or support. There were roles for all. Seeing Taku's regard for Sakura, Baudouin thought he might wish to join, sensing a powerful aura around him. Taku, however, knew he wasn't good with such people. Yet, Baudouin was insistent, especially after witnessing Taku's calm demeanor during the monster attack. Things were progressing faster than Taku liked. He quickly corrected Baudouin. His stillness had been due to surprise, nothing extraordinary. Then Sakura entered, sensing the gate's appearance, rushing to ensure everyone was safe. The situation was already resolved. Taku was about to inform her and introduce the group, but they had vanished. He simply brushed it off. The next day, Taku still wondered about the group. He resolved to avoid getting involved. Yet the existence of such a large guild within the school impressed him, though Sakura's undeniable influence made it unsurprising. He vowed to be careful not to interfere with their work. Baudouin, however, remained determined to recruit Taku. He was waiting at Taku's classroom door. Taku wanted no part of it, but Baudouin was in the same class. During and after lectures, Baudouin's gaze was always on him, making Taku uncomfortable. Takuo, it turned out, was an avid fan of Baudouin, detailing the young prodigy's accomplishments. Baudouin was the heir to a famous swordsmanship household, a legacy spanning over 1,000 years. He was a child prodigy, one of only 5 rank hunters at Odon Academy. Taku conceded his extraordinary talent, even without the club. Takuo eagerly anticipated their next lessons at the academy's training grounds. Such practical, immersive classes, usually reserved for association members, were a testament to Odon Academy's prestige. During this hunter training, students would fight DS monsters' doppelganger slimes for realistic combat practice. The professor explained slimes were ideal for basic skills. These doppelganger slimes could morph according to data. Seeing them transform into goblin-like figures, Taku questioned the safety of students fighting them. But then he remembered, they were pseudo-monsters created by a magus for practice. No real danger. As training commenced, students with great potential showcased their skills, each receiving advice and constructive criticism. When it was Baudouin's turn, his superb technique amazed everyone. Then came Taku, Takuo, and Adaki's moment. The professor offered Taku a weapon, recommending a sword for beginners. The 3 took their positions. At the bell, Takuo and Adaki charged, while Taku remained still, puzzling observers. What followed stunned them. A single enemy remained, leaving the decision to Taku. They expected him not to act, but then the slime was defeated, with no visible sword swing. Taku's swordsmanship was on par with ranked hunters. Unable to let people believe he was that skilled, Taku enlisted Adaki's help, blaming the slime for not realizing it had already been cut. Adaki, despite his reluctance, agreed, much to Takuo's surprise at their apparent camaraderie. Baudouin's interest in Taku, meanwhile, deepened considerably after witnessing his fight. The next day, Taku visited the library, searching for a way to return Taku's body. He was slowly realizing it wouldn't be simple. Yet, an idea sparked. A magazine from Sakura, featuring a girl whose story eerily resembled his own, except her soul remained intact. If that were the case, Taku wondered if the original owner's soul was still somewhere within this body. Lost in thought, Baudouin appeared, clearly seeking to engage Taku further. After much probing, Baudouin concluded Taku was hiding his true powers. Taku, unfazed, remained calm. Baudouin insisted Taku was indeed concealing something, but Taku simply maintained his facade of a normal, amnesiac student. Baudouin, disbelieving, proposed a duel. Taku immediately declined. But when Baudouin mentioned Yugi Isugi, the legendary hunter featured in Taku's magazine, Taku's interest was piqued. He desperately wanted to know more. Baudouin explained he had met her at a martial artists' gathering, but she was likely back at her home on the sacred mountain, making a meeting difficult. However, Baudouin could leverage his family's connections. He would help Taku, but only if Taku agreed to the duel. So, utilizing some tamed black gates on campus, Taku and Baudouin began their duel. The way Taku held his sword, his precise movements, confirmed Baudouin's suspicions. Taku was stronger than he appeared. Taku, in turn, recognized Baduin's formidable strength. Given their agreement, Taku fought to win. Unleashing a surge of bloodlust, Baduin envisioned his own death, intimidated by Taku's presence. Taku won. Baduin, surprisingly, was not saddened but thrilled. This confirmed Taku was indeed the strong, bold individual he suspected. Suddenly, the great bull statue against the wall transformed into a minotaur. Taku prepared to fight, but Baduin stopped him, urging him to flee. Despite knowing Taku's true power, Baduin wished to shield him from the responsibilities of the Odan society. They believed Taku desired an ordinary life, and as club president, Baduin felt it his duty to embody Sakura's ideals of selfless protection. He apologized for dragging Taku into this, acknowledging Taku's desire for anonymity. To atone, Baduin vowed to be like his idol, selfless and kind. 4 years prior, at the Baduin family dojo, a 13-year-old Baduin Some effortlessly won match after match. Other students found him unbelievable. Such innate power led to the expectation of natural giftedness. Among adults, only the clan head could best the child prodigy. His father, however, disapproved of his attitude, emphasizing that skill alone meant nothing without true strength. Baduin, teasing, recited his father's own words. Always protect and guide people correctly with an unbreakable heart against all odds. Daily exposure to this philosophy had left Baduin fed up. His training complete, he rushed home, ignoring his furious father. Yet, he secretly loved praise, viewing his talent as extremely satisfying. His large home and handsome face fueled a confidence others lacked. Though outwardly carefree, Baduin admired his father's dedication to the people, but he still believed strength was paramount. Monsters, he thought, were easy to defeat. His father's warnings seemed overblown. So, when a black gate appeared, Baduin plunged in, determined to gain personal experience and prove his father wrong. The gate was dangerous, and the adults outside worried. They had tried to stop him, but once he was in, they could only pray for an rank hunter to intervene, knowing they risked death if they followed. Minutes later, an rank hunter arrived, ordering everyone back. Inside the gate, Baduin was in disbelief. His skills, which he thought were sufficient, were utterly inadequate. When a monster seized his arm, he genuinely believed it was the end. But then, rescuers appeared to his utter surprise. Why only one? Could this woman defeat the monster alone? He desperately wanted to move, but fear paralyzed him. The rescuer, despite being injured herself, remained calm, even asking Baduin if he was hurt. It was then that Baduin understood his father's words. He was weak, fragile. The girl, having defeated all the monsters, smiled widely, urging him back, saying everything was now safe. Finding himself in a similar situation with Taku, Baduin resolved to change, to shed his weakness. If he fought alongside Taku, he would not feel ashamed. He needed to become stronger. The Minotaur was an rank monster, yet Baduin vowed to defeat it. Taku, however, noticed something in Baduin's fighting style. His skills were amazing, but he was too delicate. His opponent was a monster, not a human. To help, Taku awakened a dormant magical power within Baduin, a temporary boost that would leave him drained, but grant him the strength to send the monster flying. After the blow, Baduin was stunned. Taku, meanwhile, scanned their surroundings, noticing an observer in the distance. Somewhere nearby, the story's villain had decided Taku would not slip through their grasp. They would do everything to capture the irregular, even if he surpassed S-class hunters. He was human, after all, and thus vulnerable. How they discovered Taku was the one who defeated both the Cyclops and the Minotaur remained a mystery to be unveiled. Fast forward. Summer break was approaching. Taku woke from a disturbing dream, a vivid fragment of his past. Gasping, he briefly thought he was back in that other world. Thankfully, he wasn't. School still called, so he quickly prepared and joined his family for breakfast. He wondered about his summer plans. Baduin had promised to arrange a meeting with Isugi over the break, a potential clue to returning this body to its original owner. The thought lingered. If the original owner returned, would he simply cease to exist? A heavy thought for some, but Taku, having already faced death once, felt strangely unburdened. He simply desired peace. His parents interrupted his contemplation, worried by his pale face. To reassure them, he dismissed it as a bad dream, but his father remained concerned. His amnesia, they knew, had been severe. This pallor could signal another illness, a possibility they couldn't bear after all they'd endured. Taku smiled faintly. The depth of the real Taku's parents' love was undeniable. He felt an even greater urgency to return their son to them. But they insisted on a hospital checkup, excusing him from school. At the hospital, he encountered the Wingard party, who were equally surprised to see him. They were there for treatment, now cleared to go home. Seeing Shishika, Taku wondered if she had truly kept his secret. Her tense expression, her fidgeting, confirmed she had. As an awkward silence settled, Shishika broke it, expressing relief that everyone was okay, then quickly left, avoiding further questions. Gato, however, revealed he knew Taku had saved Shishika that day. He spoke of his roots in Kazmi City, their group's dedication to protecting it, their childhood bond. He was furious at what had happened, yet it fueled his resolve to grow stronger. Next time, he vowed, he would be the one to save the city and Shishika. Taku, feigning confusion, avoided admitting his role. Gato understood, but reminded Taku that if he ever faced trouble, he could always count on the Wingard team. He thanked Taku for ensuring Shishika's safety. Minutes later, his parents departed for work. Taku assured them he would be fine, promising to go home and rest. On his way, he noticed the unusual kindness of strangers, their gratitude and concern directed at him. While appreciated, it felt wrong to accept, given he wasn't the body's true owner. A sense of unease lingered. Until Taku returned, he vowed to protect these people with everything he had. He yearned for summer break to begin, hoping for an opportunity to act. To his surprise, some hunters overheard his words. Taku chose to ignore them, but they persisted. Yashio and Tu introduced themselves, a rank hunters from the S-rank guild Odos, acting on orders from their leader. Sakura had mentioned Odos, a prominent guild with a reputation for unsavory methods. Avoiding them was wise, Sakura had advised. Taku continued to ignore them until they produced a photograph, a clear indication of their persistence. To protect others, Taku relented. At a restaurant, they presented documents outlining the conditions for his recruitment into Odos. The offer was impressive: an executive position, a 50 million annual income, and more. Taku inwardly reflected that if he had met these individuals first, he might have hated all hunters. He was grateful for Sakura. He immediately declined, stating his disinterest in becoming a hunter. Tu and Yashio, unfazed, prepared to force his hand. Taku, poker-faced, noted their violent intentions. Their weapons were advanced, but Taku's skills were superior. They refused to give up, claiming they would only restrain him, not kill him. Taku, with his superior reflexes, easily dodged their attacks. Yashio planned to stop his movements, catching him off guard. But even their combined efforts were useless against Taku, who possessed S-rank hunter-level power. Using his protection guard, Taku remained untouched, forcing them into exhaustion. Taku noted their casual use of anti-monster skills in public, a testament to their desperation. Yashio resorted to threats, declaring a hostage tactic since force was failing. To Taku's surprise, they had been monitoring Adaki, not him. But since things had gone too far, Taku also dealt with the person observing Adaki. As Tu and Yashio lay incapacitated, their leader called. Taku answered. He politely inquired what a guild leader wanted from a civilian. The boss, Blunt, stated his desire for Taku to join. When Taku refused, the boss jokingly threatened to report him to the Hunter Association. He quickly rescinded, wanting Taku to be his secret weapon, offering no obligations. Knowing Taku wouldn't agree, the boss sent a picture: Taku's parents, lying in a hospital bed. Taku's worry spiked. The boss reassured him they were only poisoned, but with a unique toxin incurable by this world's medicine. The antidote, he explained, would only be provided if Taku accepted his conditions. To discuss, the boss invited Taku to his residence, alone. Taku understood. Bringing backup would only slow him down. After checking on his hospitalized parents, Taku proceeded to the boss's location. Akina, the boss's assistant, guided him, revealing that such restaurants served as bases across Japan. The one Taku had been in earlier was also theirs. Instead of a normal meeting room, Akina led him into an empty chamber. The boss, she explained, awaited him on the other side of what appeared to be a black hole. Taku stepped through without hesitation, only to be met by a horde of monsters. These creatures, he realized, were under the boss's control. Everything bad happening in the city, he understood, was the boss's doing. The boss, surprisingly, didn't deny it, even finding it amusing how Gato continued to grieve over the past incident. Blood boiling, confusion swirling, Taku demanded to know if this was the boss's ultimate goal. Without hesitation, the boss declared his intent to tear down all the damn rules, the guilds, the hunters. He would rule this country with his monsters. Taku scoffed. It was impossible. No matter how many monsters, control would be reestablished. But the boss had considered every contingency. Even S-rank reinforcements or controllers would be met with his trump cards. Then, to Taku's shock, the boss handed him the antidote. He explained he had intended to give it to Taku after showing him his vision. He had no desire to make Taku an enemy. Taku, however, found this hard to believe, given his parents' abduction. The boss, avoiding the direct accusation, claimed to understand Taku's desire to hide his power, but found it unfair that powerful individuals like Taku had to live such lives. For years, people like Taku had been collared, held captive by public opinion. No one, he argued, would truly accept them. What reason, the boss pressed, did Taku have to restrain such power? He believed Taku wished to go wild and offered his hand, suggesting they conquer the world together. Without a second thought, Taku threw the antidote to the ground, boldly refusing. He had already discovered the poison was basilisk venom and had cured his parents himself. The boss was stunned. Basilisk venom hadn't surfaced in this world. How did Taku know? Taku challenged him to a duel. He had come to nail the boss down. His power, Taku declared, existed solely to protect his precious, peaceful days. Anyone who dared touch what was dear to him would be thoroughly crushed. The boss, thrilled by Taku's strength, readily accepted. He ordered his monsters to attack. Taku, with a flare burst, incinerated them all. The boss, undeterred, was even more motivated, pushing to drain Taku's power. He unleashed his summoning skills, forcibly commanding monsters with his magic. Taku immediately recognized the boss as no ordinary man, likely an S-rank hunter. He couldn't hold back. Taku unleashed a torrent of powerful attacks, confirming his status as a gifted irregular with his flashy skills. Recognizing Taku as a formidable opponent, the boss summoned Akina, his assistant, revealing their trump card, an 8-headed monster called Hydra. Taku was momentarily stunned, never having seen such a creature in this world. His first attack had no effect, the monster felt no pain, but as he continued, he discovered each head felt pain individually. The challenge, its regeneration, an immortal monster, unbeatable by any hunter. Taku scoffed. Immortality was a myth. He had fought such opponents countless times. The boss, he thought, shouldn't underestimate him. There was always a way. If it regenerated, the only way was to destroy it all at once. Hydra, however, was smarter than Taku anticipated, actively preventing him from gathering mana. Annoying. To win, he needed to observe. Freezing severed heads, he discovered a 3-second regeneration window. He planned to unleash a fast-casting magic during this time. Still, it felt insufficient. He sought other weaknesses. Seconds later, he found it, its tail. With one powerful blow, he struck it down. The boss watched his trump card fall, disbelief warring with renewed determination. He fought back with other deadly monsters, but Taku was simply too strong. Seeing her master overwhelmed, Akina intervened. Taku initially dismissed her as an ordinary monster, but soon realized his initial suspicion was correct. Akina was a powerful demon. Her surprise at his knowledge of demons made her wonder if Taku was the prophesied man. Taku, unfazed, recalled his otherworld days, where demons were to be killed without question. Akina felt an overwhelming fear, as if facing the demon lord itself. What should she do? The boss, accepting his defeat, gave Akina permission to act freely. All his monsters, even Hydra, were dead. his mana exhausted. Everything was in Akina's hands. Akina, seizing the moment, decided to implement a plan she had reserved for after the hunters were wiped out. The boss was shocked. She had planned to eliminate him too. But powerless, he could only buy her time, desperately trying to keep Taku from moving. Akina, meanwhile, worked on her plan. A dimensional wall separated the two worlds. A small gate posed little threat, but what if the wall itself vanished? Akina then birthed her child, Tyros, a being she claimed would kill even God. As this unfolded, a slit ripped open, connecting both worlds. People in Tokyo, going about their day, were startled by sudden gate appearances. Akina felt changes within herself. It was only a matter of time. Would Akina succeed, or would Taku prevail? Let's rewind to the very beginning. 10 years ago, a 13-year-old boy named Hiyakawa entered his first gate. Despite the heavy burden of carrying everyone's bags, young Hiyakawa maintained his spirits, confident in his senior's care. His confidence was misplaced. Pursued by monsters, his seniors abandoned him, telling him that, having entered the gate so young, he was surely strong enough to manage alone. He believed it was his end. But it wasn't. Akina, the demon pursuing them, was intrigued by the young boy left behind. He had already suffered so much. She decided to save him, but for a price, a private exchange. Traumatized, Hiyakawa awoke in a hospital, pouring out his exhaustion, demanding why his teammates had used him as bait. The fact that they faced no penalty enraged him. His teammates, to the organization, claimed it was an accident, an unfortunate consequence of one of their own dying. Then guilt tripped Hiyakawa into silence. His uncorroborated testimony was useless, such were the rules. Hiyakawa, left with no recourse, accepted Akina's terms. He would crush the Hunters Association, and Akina would grant him the power. He vowed to give his all to their shared victory. Now, halfway through their plan, he felt a momentary relief until he saw Taku, alive and well. But Taku, too, was struggling. Akina was formidable. No power seemed to affect her. He needed to find her weaknesses, dodging every attack. Akina declared that she and Tyros were now one, the strongest being, impossible to ignore. Taku's body, he realized, was nearing its limit. He needed to end this quickly. Akina believed his attacks were futile, but Taku wouldn't give up. With an aerial burst, he sliced off Akina's head. He had noticed her weakness. Being in control of the monster, she was vulnerable. Akina, however, was equally tenacious. Her mind began to erode as she lost control of Tyros' power. Desperate, she threatened Taku's family and loved ones. Taku, unwilling to let his family be involved, glared. Akina felt an overwhelming, unfamiliar fear. How could she, so powerful, fear a mere boy? Memories of her family's disdain resurfaced. Tears streamed down her face. She fought to regain control, reminding herself of her past weakness, contrasting it with her present power. She vowed revenge on those who mocked her, to make them feel despair. To do so, she needed to kill this boy, the prophesied one. She would die trying if necessary. Taku, meanwhile, was also lost in memories of his otherworld life. One moment stood out, resting in the woods with Weiss, who excitedly noted the large number of people joining their journey, promising a pleasant trip. Yet, Weiss wondered if it was truly all right to refuse other parties seeking to subjugate the demon lord. Taku replied that everyone had the right to refuse such a dangerous mission. Besides, no one could keep up with his pace. Weiss agreed, recalling his sudden sprints, his effortless cliff climbs. He didn't trust everyone, even those who praised his power, finding solace only in solitude. But he loved Weiss's presence, her care during his setbacks, her timely healing of his injuries. He would not be deterred. Though he had only scratched the surface of Tyros, he would now go all in. He knew Akina's true body location. All that remained was to kill her. But his body was weakening, his movements dulled. Akina noticed. It would be simple to deal with her, but his physical limits prevented rapid, powerful spells. Yet he wasn't worried. Akina/Tyros was likely draining her own life force. One more thing remained to be done. Akina, observant, realized Taku had figured out Tyros' power source. Waiting for her death was futile. Tyros was also draining the life force of Earth's humans. Tyros' followers were already overflowing Japan. No matter what Taku did now, everything would end in death. But Taku thought, if that was true, he needed to return to the other side quickly. But would he be able to move after killing her? He was at a loss. Akina, knowing Tyros would spiral out of control if she died, assumed Taku wouldn't kill her. Her assumption was wrong. Taku showed no signs of giving up. In Tokyo, guilds worked tirelessly to maintain control. Gato and his team remained optimistic amidst the darkness, preventing panic. Odon Academy hunters, fighting monsters, shouted Sakura's name, proud of their role model. They existed to protect the peace. Baudouin, confident against fish monsters, found himself grabbed, his teammates panicking. Sakura arrived just in time. Baudouin, though strong, knew S rank was still a distant dream. Sakura moved ceaselessly, ensuring order. She fought the monsters in the city center, then moved to the next area. People were amazed by her power. Sakura, in her mind, would defeat whatever came her way. Taku, too, fought with all his might. Akina was shocked by his unprecedented power as her subordinates evaporated. During this intense fight, Taku remembered Weiss's earlier words. He had distanced himself from his former men, knowing his superior strength would eventually lead them to distance themselves from him. He had been too proud to look beyond himself. Learning his lesson, he shared it with Hayakawa. The vast majority would not become powerful, but looking closely, one found exceptions. He was grateful to Akina and Hayakawa for showing him he wasn't fighting alone. Akina, losing control, decided to sacrifice herself for a final, decisive blow. Yet Taku always prevailed. He seized control of the situation, surprising Akina. The dimensional wall, instead of breaking, shattered. The demon couldn't believe Taku hadn't just killed Tyros, but erased its entire existence. His power, she conceded, surpassed human capabilities. As Taku approached, Akina felt a primal fear. Taku had one question before delivering the final blow, the prophecy she spoke of. Struggling, she mentioned a power like Taku's, but her regenerating wound ceased, indicating her imminent death. Hayakawa's heart ached, watching his longtime partner die. He replayed their shared moments, good and bad. Her death felt like his punishment. Akina, however, forced a happy expression to spare him, but Hayakawa's heart was shattered. His anger surged, driving him to kill Taku. Before he could act, an unknown group arrived, shocking Taku. With a calm voice, he demanded their identities. The three, Rar, Sukuna, and Dark Knight, introduced themselves. Taku recognized their strength. They were unwavering. His own body was nearing its breaking point. What should he do next? The three assured Taku they meant no harm, explaining they were there only for the traitor, Akina, and had no intention of fighting him. They were also there to retrieve a trade secret. Once it was in their possession, they prepared to leave. But Taku, true to his nature, would not allow them to depart so easily. Rar, sensing Taku's exhaustion, advised him to relax. They would meet again. Taku wondered if this was the same other world he knew, but he knew it wasn't. Back in the city, many had died. The damage from the outbreak was immense. The incident's leader was quickly arrested. Hayakawa offered no resistance, perhaps finally succumbing to guilt. In transit to the station, Hayakawa contemplated Taku's earlier words. His investigations into the association had shown them to be far from just. He knew his time was short. Suddenly, his teammates arrived, rescuing him. As their police car exploded, they reached Hayakawa. He warned them, only those ready to die would follow him to finish this once and for all. At Kazmi Municipal Hospital, Taku's parents were well, ready to go home. Outside, the summer sun felt like a harbinger of the approaching break. Meanwhile, the three demons had returned to their own realm. They informed their princess that they had dealt with Akina, the traitor, and recovered the stolen item, Pandora. But the most exciting news, they had released a man who seemed to be from the Messiah's prophecy. The princess was pleased, believing it wasn't yet time. Sukuna, however, chafed, wanting to play with Taku. But for now, it was safer to let him be. At the Hunter Association Japanese HQ, a meeting was underway. S-rank Sono Reno reported contacting all 50 S-rank hunters for an emergency, but only 5 had appeared, shocking him. Did they not care about Japan's fate? Sakura interjected, suggesting it was counterproductive to dwell on the absent. S-rank SAE Cadden added that on-site gatherings were primitive in this era. The leader argued confidentiality. Cadden, teasing, pointed out that using taxpayer money for fancy inns would get them fired. Yet, Cadden insisted hunters protected the people, regardless of government. Sono, pro-government, disagreed. Other hunters tried to ease the tension. S-rank hunter Igarashi Hideo teased hunter Hayabusa Tenku with Cadden, making Tenku blush. Cadden, however, clarified Tenku wasn't his type. He preferred kind individuals who defended the weak. Tenku, disheartened, felt rejected. Hideo tried to cheer him, assuring him his destined partner awaited. Amidst the chaos, Hunter Association President Akahoshi Mei entered, and everyone immediately fell into line. The president began, addressing the recent terrorist act led by Hayakawa. Investigation confirmed demon involvement, a concept new to most hunters. The president explained, demons existed outside the gates, otherworlders. Tenku knew of civilizations within gates, but weren't they ruins? Hideo clarified that demons had appeared only once before, over 20 years ago, defeated and unseen since. They were merciless monsters, relations were impossible. Announcing their existence would spark disagreement and reckless attempts to meet them. Unpredictable, they decided to conceal demons, revealing the truth only to S-class hunters and establishing a system. They needed to participate in this cover-up. Sakura wondered if her parents had been killed by a demon, not a humanoid monster. Before she could ask, the president shifted to the next topic, Taku. Taku's photo on the big screen sent a shiver down Sakura's spine. She hadn't expected the association to know. The president revealed Taku had destroyed the Odo's guild himself. Tenku questioned this, noting Hayakawa's capture by association hunters. How could Taku possibly defeat them all alone? An officer explained that Hayakawa was already down when they arrived. CCTV footage revealed Taku. Unregistered, he was under investigation. The president requested any information. No one spoke. The president smiled. He had called only the 4, not the entire organization, with Sono's complicity. He wanted it kept secret for now, for he had further plans. What could they be? Sakura, deeply confused, couldn't reconcile Taku's name appearing in such a major event. No matter how much she tried to protect his anonymity, he seemed oblivious. Was he careless, or did he truly wish to be seen? Despite her confusion, Sakura believed Taku had his reasons and resolved to speak with him. She immediately messaged him, asking him to contact her. The president then approached Sakura, assuring her. He knew Odo's had poisoned Taku's parents. The association would do nothing to Taku. This issue, he instructed, was for Sono and the others to resolve. Sakura alone needed to know this because she was Taku's friend. Sakura was shocked. How did the president know so much? And were they truly friends? In her mind, they were not. As the president departed, a young girl named Momi entered, looking adorable, informing Sakura that their grandfather was waiting. Momi then burst into tears. It was the first time Sakura's work had slowed, meaning they could finally spend time together. To make it up to her, Sakura promised anything. Momi, delighted, showed her what she wanted, and Sakura was shocked. The next day, Taku visited the mall for shopping, expecting crowds due to summer break, which he found. He needed items despite his reluctance. Only a week after the incident, the government had rapidly restored buildings, likely due to a specialized restoration bureau under the Hunter Association. He was simply glad to have a new smartphone, his old one broken in the fight with Tyros. On his way home, he unexpectedly encountered Momi and Sakura, also shopping. Taku greeted Sakura with a wide smile, but she looked upset. He hadn't responded to her message. Sakura's anger was palpable, intimidating Taku. He quickly explained everything, his phone breaking, buying a new one. Momi observed her sister, recalling her grandmother's speculation that Sakura was in love with Taku, judging by her anger at his inattention. Momi, without reservation, asked Sakura if Taku was her boyfriend. Sakura, initially shy, decided to go with Momi's statement, confirming they were friends, as she had been wondering herself if Taku saw her as such. To her surprise, Taku seemed happy and honored to be friends with the school's most popular person. Momi, wanting to know more about Sakura's school life, invited Taku to join them shopping, surprising them both. Taku agreed. The three spent the day shopping. Meanwhile, the Wingard party, having lunch, noticed Taku and the two girls. They wondered if Taku was dating both Sakura and Sae, concluding he must be a legend. They considered interfering, then decided against it. Back to Taku and Sakura. Sakura, still bothered by earlier events, told Taku not to lie about being popular. Though nervous, Taku insisted it wasn't a lie. Sakura realized he wasn't a bad person, he had simply fought for his parents. He was kind-hearted. While the president claimed to be investigating Taku, Sakura noticed he acted as if he knew Taku before his accident. Why? Questions swirled. Who was Taku? Was his amnesia real? Despite their friendship, she felt she knew nothing about him. Their serious conversation was interrupted when Momi's merry-go-round suddenly stopped. Momi was gone. Taku and Sakura panicked. People in the park, seeing Sakura, were relieved, believing rescue was at hand, urging her to act. But Sakura, consumed by worry for her sister, couldn't function. Taku spoke for her, asking if anyone had seen Sakura's little sister, specifying Momi's age 5 and her matching dress and ribbon. Some remembered seeing her walking towards the gate break. Sakura, without a moment's hesitation, rushed there. Momi, meanwhile, remained remarkably calm, comforting a frightened little boy. Sakura, she assured him, would take care of everything, but their situation was worsening. A monster advanced, ready to kill them. Sakura raced towards her sister, remembering their parents' sacrifice. Losing Momi was unthinkable. Just in time, they spotted Momi in an alley, a monster about to strike. Taku leaped in, defeating it instantly. Having handled everything, Taku and Sakura concluded their day, saving everyone. Sakura also found the boys' parents. Before parting ways, Sakura apologized to Taku for losing her composure, forcing him to use his powers. Taku, slightly shy, reassured her. She always looked out for him. It was time he returned the favor. This calmed Sakura a little. Momi thanked Taku, believing she would have died without him. Taku seized the opportunity to warn Momi not to wander off again, lest Sakura worry. Yet, he also praised Momi's unflinching protection of the boy, making her quite happy, as it was her first praise. Sakura, however, was still deep in thought, puzzled by Taku's moves, which belonged to someone with extensive battle experience. She directly asked him, who was he exactly? She wanted the truth, no more doubt. Taku, feeling guilty for his secrecy, prepared to tell her everything. But Momi interrupted, suggesting they kiss, like in TV dramas, to reconcile. Sakura smiled at the innocent suggestion after their long day. She asked Taku to walk home with them. He agreed without hesitation. On the way, Taku noticed the close bond between Sakura and Momi, feeling a pang of envy. Sakura, however, felt she spoiled Momi, but it didn't bother her. Momi was her only treasure. She vowed to give her sister the best life. Their parents, she explained, had died when Momi was very young, leaving her unfamiliar with parental love. Sakura, a weak child then, had watched Momi grow up feeling alone. This fueled Sakura's regret, driving her to become strong. She became a hunter for personal reasons, to protect those she loved, so Momi would never cry again. And if that also led to a world where everyone laughed freely, then so be it. Taku then shared something he felt he might not be able to say again. With a wide smile, he expressed gratitude for meeting her, for the unimaginable experiences she had brought into his life. His memories, he explained, might be returning, meaning the new memories they had made could disappear. Sakura, confused, pressed him. It was because, he revealed, he wasn't the real Taku. Sakura, still not fully grasping his meaning, simply stated that even if he forgot her, she would remember him as her friend. The next day, Taku and Baduin journeyed to Niigata to meet Isugi Kiko. Taku, however, wasn't enjoying Baduin's company. At the sacred mountains of Yukar, Isugi waited. They hiked, and Taku was surprised by his body's lightness, even after hours. These woods, he sensed, were rich with mana. Baduin explained these mountains were ideal for a temple, connecting to another world not via gates. Tales of yokai and others emerging from dragon veins here were common. It was a shared origin point for all sorts of dangerous beings, known only to S-class hunters and a few distinguished families. But there was no need to worry. If monsters appeared, someone guarded against them. In Japan, exorcists were well known, but the Yugi family had protected Japan since ancient times. Why was, Taku wondered? They were destroyed 10 years ago by a monster, sealed by Yugi Tsubasa, Kiko's sister, who sacrificed her life. Only Kiko survived, guarding the seal ever since. Her appearance in a magazine was rare. Now, with Baudouin's mention, Taku realized Kiko possessed a calm aura. Baudouin disagreed. As they argued, Kiko suddenly appeared, chastising Baudouin for speaking ill of her behind her back. Taku saw her in a new light. Kiko, after dealing with Baudouin, turned to Taku. She challenged him, expecting an average hunter. To her surprise, Taku was anything but ordinary. Her first attack should have finished him. His counterattacks were precise. The way he hardened his arm, waiting for an opening, showed seasoned combat experience. Still, she believed he had no chance until she saw more. Before things escalated, Kiko stopped the fight. This was enough. Further testing would exceed mere practice. Having seen his potential and heard much about him, she had questions. Why, if not a hunter, had he come all this way? Taku, without hesitation, explained he sought an exorcism for a ghost possessing him. An accident, memory loss, and the sudden ability to use powers, he claimed, due to possession. He wanted to return to his normal self. Kiko realized Taku was extraordinary. Doubting he would lie after traveling so far, she confirmed his desire for exorcism. Since he desperately wanted it, she invited him to her mansion for further discussion. After a long day, Taku, exhausted from the fight and Kiko's family hospitality, bathed in the spring to relax. He sensed a presence. It was Kiko. Fearing discovery, Taku remained silent until he heard Kiko musing aloud about her social awkwardness. The earlier encounter with Taku had clearly bothered her. She vowed to keep trying for the sake of the Yugi family. Taku glanced at her, wondering at this stark contrast to her earlier demeanor. That small movement caught the S-rank hunter's attention. Without hesitation, she launched a deadly attack, stopping only when she recognized Taku. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. The next day, Taku expected anger, but Kiko was surprisingly composed, greeting him with a good morning. He stuttered, confused. Sensing the awkwardness, she bluntly asked if his behavior was due to yesterday. Taku immediately apologized, eager to clear the air. Kiko laughed, teasing him, reassuring him it was her fault. Today, they would focus on the ghost possessing Taku. To investigate, she asked him to close his eyes and focus on his heartbeat. His concentration was tremendous, seemingly impervious to sound. Reviewing Taku's story, she knew immediately he was lying. As a Yugi, serving divine gods and discerning such things, his account felt off. Yet he didn't feel like he was lying. To truly understand, Kiko needed to delve into his mind. Inside, she found a calm, gentle mind, yet laced with a profound sadness. What she saw shocked her. Emerging from his mind, she knew with certainty, with such power, Taku was no ordinary citizen. She desperately needed to know who he truly was. Taku, confused, felt Kiko was now genuinely trying to kill him. He used protective measures. Kiko concluded Taku was the strongest hunter she had ever met. The situation escalated, forcing Taku to fight back without holding anything back. As Taku's power swept her away, Kiko abruptly stopped fighting. Her ribbon, a family gift, was lost. Unable to afford its loss, she wept. Taku, feeling responsible, tried to comfort her, but nothing worked. Meanwhile, at the seal, something grim was unfolding. 10 years prior, the Yugi family had reminded themselves that their sacrifices should not be in vain. It was time to act. Despite the hardship, they remained calm, trusting in Yugi Tsubasa, the family head, to protect them. They revered her, especially young Kiko. Tsubasa, known for her devotion to her sister, had hugged Kiko tightly on their last day, promising to always be there. Despite Kiko's clumsiness with words, Tsubasa was proud of her ability to convey feelings, thanking her for her constant worry, vowing not to die until Kiko wore a wedding dress. But now Tsubasa was gone. All Kiko had were memories. Tsubasa, the family's sunshine, drew people to her. Kiko, by herself, was a recluse. Tsubasa's presence gave her courage. But that day, the Yugi family members who went to seal a rampaging monster never returned. The servants, without protection, descended the harsh mountain, their dejected faces etched in Kiko's memory. Those who remained gave her looks that suggested she should have died instead of her sister. There was even a proposal for them all to leave, but Kiko couldn't command them to stay. She lacked the power to protect. As the last Yugi, her duty was to protect the seal everyone had died for, yet anxiety gnawed at her. She sometimes thought if she became like her sister, everything would work out, so she mimicked her. That hair tie, she believed, allowed her to be lively. Now it was gone, leaving her anxious, unable to face things alone. She hated herself for it. Taku comforted her, admitting he understood. He too had been bullied, yearned for change, wished daily to be someone else. Kiko, surprised, wondered how he transformed into such a strong person. With a wide, sparkling smile, Taku revealed his secret. He had people who accepted him unconditionally. We all, he mused, encounter wonderful people when we least expect it. After their morning talk, Baduin noted Taku's renewed energy. The dojo roof was repaired, training could begin. Taku, however, chastised Baduin for agitating Kiko. Baduin's reason shocked him. He did it on purpose, knowing Kiko was lonely and needed someone to playfully bicker with. He was willing to be that person. Taku, unexpected by this, now felt guilty and resolved to help Kiko feel better. But finding the hair tie, without a clue as to its whereabouts, was a daunting task. Suddenly, Kiko appeared, informing Taku that while in his mind, she had fought something evil. Taku seized the opportunity, asking if she saw another soul. To his surprise, she said no. Kiko believed two souls couldn't coexist in one body. This contradicted Kiko's own fighting style, which involved spirits. She clarified, she merely borrowed their power, not possession. When a soul entered an occupied body, the original soul was ejected. Where, then, was the original Taku's soul? A fox appeared, gesturing for Taku to follow. Miraculously, it found the hair tie. The fox could speak. Taku, accustomed to talking animals, asked its purpose. It wanted Taku to protect Kiko. Taku, knowing Kiko's strength, was puzzled, but recalling Baduin's words, he accepted Mr. Fox's request. The fox, however, insisted on secrecy, lest Kiko be shocked. Everything set, Taku used transfer magic to reappear before Kiko, handing her the hair tie. Kiko wept. Somewhere near, Tsubasa watched, filled with joy that Kiko was no longer alone. She had been the fox. Her duty to protect her sister was now Taku's. If he made Kiko cry, Tsubasa vowed she would come after him. Since Kiko couldn't help with his soul dilemma, Taku decided to return home for now, promising to text her any progress. Kiko, before he left, warned him that even if an evil spirit possessed him, his body would eventually expel it. One soul couldn't dominate another forever. Perhaps, she thought, Taku wasn't the one needing exorcism. Descending the mountains, Taku pondered Kiko's words. If Taku's soul hadn't returned, where did it go? Was it extinguished? He was back at square one. What next? The ground suddenly shook, startling both Taku and Baduin at the mansion. Kiko, however, remained calm, urging Baduin to descend the mountain immediately. He insisted on staying. Kiko forcibly sent him down, appreciating his sentiment but knowing he would only hinder her. This was a Yugi family mission. Baduin regained consciousness after Kiko's forceful shove. He pleaded with Ganir, Kiko's sheep protector, a gift from Tsubasa, to return to Kiko. Ganir refused, bound by Kiko's orders. Along the way, they met Taku. Seeing Ganir wounded, Taku quickly healed her. Baduin was shocked by the disrupted landscape, but there was no time for worry. Taku was there. He pleaded with Taku to return him to Kiko. Baduin, however, was still being taken to safety by Ganir. Taku, remembering the fox's request, wondered if he should return to the mansion and help Kiko. The fox suddenly appeared, offering to guide him. Meanwhile, Kiko was deep in the mountains, her sister waiting. Tsubasa, with a mesmerizing smile, welcomed her. She complimented Kiko's hair, styled just as Tsubasa had once done. This Tsubasa, however, was different, teasing Kiko about her lack of confidence. She knew Kiko had been lonely but assured her they would all be together now. Kiko would not allow it. Chanting magic, she drew her sword. Tsubasa, angered by Kiko's refusal, vowed to smash her prim face, warning that Kiko's tears wouldn't stop her. But Kiko, a true Yugi, the incarnation of Bishamon, would destroy this defiant god before it further tainted her sister. Hearing Kiko was in danger, Taku ran, the fox struggling to keep up. She complained he was running too fast, negating her role as guide, and surely he didn't know where he was going. Taku stopped, explaining he thought following the mana source was logical. The fox declared him boring. Before straying, Taku asked about the rampaging entity, too strong to be a simple monster. The fox revealed its name, Nataku, an entity that arrived 1,000 years ago through dragon veins, a powerful demon. Taku wasn't surprised by demon, making the fox wonder how he knew. Taku explained his limited knowledge, only that they existed. The fox elaborated. The Yugi family passed down a tale of a soul from a parallel world summoned to this one, needing a Yorishiro, an object to move. Nataku, with its power to interfere with psyches, had once made it seem to control mountain weather, feared as a mountain god. The Yugi family sealed it with divine power. But the seal weakened 10 years ago. It was resealed, but the Yugi family suffered greatly, Nataku too powerful. Taku finally realized the fox was Tsubasa, Kiko's older sister. Tsubasa explained her body was snatched, leaving her a spirit. Taku's immediate recognition, she noted, was due to her lack of shadow. Why a fox? It looked cute from a human perspective, making Taku laugh. Tsubasa continued. Yugi blood held divine power, making her body a suitable vessel. Kiko, with the highest potential as a vessel for the strongest god, was Nataku's true target for its return to godhood. Taku remembered demons were often unbeatable. Destroying the vessel wouldn't harm them, their soul was elsewhere. But an attack with divine power could damage the soul. Even the Yugis could only tie down its soul and seal it. If Kiko finished it off in one go, they had a chance. Kiko, indeed, fought her best. Nataku admitted Kiko had improved. Just as Kiko neared victory, the demon feigned sadness, evoking Tsubasa in Kiko's mind. Overwhelmed by emotion, Kiko was seized. The demon, adept at manipulating Tsubasa's memories, saw her as an excellent vessel. Things looked dire. Taku appeared, intervening. Nataku, seeing him for the first time, wondered who he was. Taku, ignoring the demon, tended to Kiko's wounds. She was bleeding profusely, needing immediate medical attention. Kiko, ignoring her own state, apologized for failing to kill the demon and for breaking her promise. As this emotional scene unfolded, Nataku fumed at Taku's blatant disregard. Who was he? Kiko's boyfriend? A friend. Before she could finish, Taku effortlessly punched her meters away. Taku worried his spell speed wouldn't heal Kiko in time. Tsubasa finally caught up, her sister's state filling her with worry. She retrieved her hair tie, her gift to Kiko, planning to use it as a medium to transfer her remaining life force. Doing so meant she couldn't stay. Before vanishing, Tsubasa reminded Taku of his promise. Though Taku was not skilled at fighting while protecting others, he vowed to do his best. This demon had crossed a line. He would kill her now. Watching Taku fight, Tsubasa noted his amazing restorative power. Without it, Kiko's survival would have been impossible. Tsubasa delivered her final words to Kiko. She hadn't been brightly optimistic from the start, experiencing hesitancy Kiko never saw. Illness claimed their parents, forcing Tsubasa into leadership, meeting everyone's expectations. She shelved her anxiety, striving for perfection. She envied Kiko's open emotional expression, finding it sometimes depressing. But every time Kiko called her Nesama, older sister, it calmed her, reminding her she wasn't alone. She was grateful for the strength Kiko gave her to fight. Kiko was Tsubasa's most important, beloved family. She had to save her. Meanwhile, Ganir and Baudouin reached the bottom of the mountain. Baudouin, unable to help Kiko directly, entrusted everything to Ganir. As Ganir ascended, Baudouin called for backup in Niigata, the yoke area. He felt helpless but reminded himself that he hadn't become a hunter for approval. Like Kiko, he would protect everyone in his own way. Back with the three, as Tsubasa healed her sister, Kiko recalled Tsubasa as incredible, supportive, and beloved from an early age. Her death devastated Kiko, especially the whispers that Kiko should have died instead. She suffered emotionally, weak at heart, viewing everything negatively, hating herself. She wondered if she could become like Tsubasa if she possessed similar powers. She desired strength, for without it she wouldn't be competitive. Now that her part was done, a pang of loneliness struck. Tsubasa, proud of her grown sister, yet calling her a crybaby, watched. Kiko, tears welling, hugged her sister. She confessed her lack of reason, her anxiety, her loneliness, her longing to be like Tsubasa, but her feeling of weakness. Tsubasa suggested Kiko convey such important feelings directly. Taku and Nataku were locked in an intense fight. Nataku, threatened by Taku's power, was exhausted. She hadn't expected someone like him. Tsubasa's body memories indicated only one person wielded divinity. Nataku couldn't accept that after all her effort, Taku would trap her in a flimsy seal. She vowed to make him suffer upon her escape. Tsubasa, too, was fighting Nataku. Tsubasa's soul, it turned out, remained within her body, a strategic move from the beginning. Nataku wouldn't escape easily. She was stuck with Tsubasa until the seal was complete, giving them plenty of time. A part of Tsubasa was sealed in her body, limiting her movement, but allowing her to relentlessly laud her little sister to Nataku. Kiko, Tsubasa began, wouldn't abandon a wilting flower, nurturing it to the end. This insight made others realize Tsubasa's nurturing spirit. Despite disliking study and often running away, Kiko always returned, apologizing. She was the embodiment of potential. If Nataku believed Kiko easily defeated, she was mistaken. The child would not lose. Kiko felt a surge of motivation. Tsubasa continued. She knew Kiko's struggles, regretting the burden she carried alone. It was fine not to emulate her. Kiko possessed unique strengths. Her very presence here proved it. Tsubasa wanted Kiko to remember she was loved for who she was. All Kiko needed was to acknowledge herself. Emotional, Kiko felt her confidence bloom. For their final farewell, Tsubasa hugged her baby sister tightly, promising to watch over her from afar. Nataku, now fully committed, prepared to fight. Taku's power, she realized, was extraordinary, surpassing the strongest soldiers. Seconds later, Kiko entered, revitalized, full of energy and resolve. She felt capable of anything, especially after Tsubasa's reminder of her inherent strength. Her power was immense, demanding a high level of resolve to control. As Kiko unleashed her attack, Taku acknowledged its incomparable force. Hyped to end the fight, Taku stepped aside as Kiko cast her spell. Nataku, surprised by this turn of events, tried to kill Kiko, sensing a sudden, dangerous aura. Before she could strike, Ganir arrived, blocking her. Taku was surprised, but remembering Ganir and Kiko's long friendship and the cinematic quality of the scene, he understood. Nataku, enraged, stabbed Ganir to escape, but before significant damage was inflicted, Taku intervened, helping the winged creature. Nataku, frustrated, couldn't comprehend why Taku and Ganir would step away from Kiko, even in her grave situation. Taku, with a proud smirk, replied that they no longer needed to protect Kiko with everything they had. She was ready to fight Nataku herself. As the scene intensified, Kiko maintained focus, while Taku felt a surge of tension. Kiko chanted her final spells, releasing Akina's divine power. It was otherworldly. Nataku felt herself being torn from Tsubasa's body, a sensation that proved true. Kiko's divine power altered the atmosphere, forcibly ejecting Nataku from Tsubasa's vessel. Now, Taku saw Nataku's true form. Without wasting a moment, Taku rushed, planning to strike. Nataku, calm at first, believed Taku's attacks would be futile in her spirit state. Normal attacks shouldn't work. To her utter surprise, Taku tackled her down with a single blow. How could he touch her? Taku, it turned out, was using divine flames, which were highly effective against demons like Nataku. Furthermore, he was an extraordinary fire magic user. Nataku felt excruciating pain. To ensure her end, Taku held her in place, allowing Kiko to cast her deadly spell. As they awaited Kiko's spell, Taku felt power scattering everywhere. Kiko, too, felt the enormous power rushing through her, so potent she felt her body creak. Carelessness could make the power abandon her. She focused intently, building its force. To help, she envisioned flames weaving around a sword. she had only one swing. She had to consider Taku's safety. It seemed simple, but the pressure was immense. She could not miss, for Taku's life depended on it. She realized her old self couldn't have controlled this. But now, confident in her power, she knew she would succeed. She would not doubt herself. With eager dedication, Kiko, with one powerful swing, prayed for the evil soul to be burned away. Flames engulfed the surroundings, their heat radiating. The divine power from the heavens had fulfilled Kiko's mission. Nataku was defeated. Taku rushed to Kiko, offering a hand to the exhausted girl. After their long day, they returned to the mansion, where Baduin awaited. Taku informed them that the Hunter Association was managing the area, and Kiko was requested at headquarters. Kiko understood. With so much to do, she knew she needed a new place. Did that mean leaving this place for good? Taku wondered. Kiko smiled. It was always her plan. She had only remained to guard the seal. Now that it was gone, she could rely on outsiders to protect the dragon vein. It was unreasonable for one person to bear that burden alone. With the plan settled, Baduin excused himself to pack their luggage. Taku went with them. Back inside the mansion, Kiko contemplated. She had been confident her attack wouldn't harm Taku. When Nataku was ejected, Taku had been untouched. He had also told her she wasn't possessed, meaning she wasn't an enemy in his eyes. Good and evil, after all, were subjective. Did Taku see her as good? Instead of dwelling, she chose optimism. If she kept trying to be like Tsubasa, her sister would have trouble moving on. With a big, happy smile, Kiko was finally ready to live a life true to herself. Meanwhile, as Kiko and the others celebrated their unexpected victory, some of Nataku's subordinates struggled to believe one of their strongest members had lost. Their leader wondered if humans were aware of their plans, or if they were merely overthinking. To ensure their safety, the leader resolved to investigate further. Returning to Taku, he was deep in a beautiful dream, playing outside with other children on a sunny lawn. He awoke suddenly, questions flooding his mind. On his way to school, he couldn't shake the strangely realistic dream. It felt less like a dream and more like the real Taku's memories. In it, Taku was 5 or 6. He recalled searching photo albums for the original Taku. There were no photos before age 6. His parents, he remembered, had erased all old data when they moved. Kiko had mentioned that bodies and separated souls often gravitated toward places of connection. To find Kusagi Taku's soul, he needed to know more about his past. But first, other matters called. As he walked, Sakura called. A small problem had arisen, she needed to talk. Taku politely replied. What awaited him at school was unexpected. Kiko had been appointed a part-time teacher at the academy after discussions with the Hunter Association. It surprised other students, but Taku understood. It was Kiko's first public role in a long time. Teaching as an S-rank hunter was a fitting path. After Kiko's introduction, the school announced an exchange program with the Hashima Academy. S-rank hunter Sae Kaden would stay until next spring, exciting everyone. 2 top S-rank hunters at their school, especially Sae Kaden, the best student from Kai Hashima Academy, felt like a dream come true. Takuo reminded Taku that before his memory loss, he had been a devoted fan of Sae Kaden. Taku was surprised. They hadn't discussed it much. They parted ways. On his walk home, Taku saw Kiko and Sakura talking. Kiko called out to Taku, surprising Sakura, who hadn't known they knew each other. Curiosity piqued, she asked how they met. Kiko, subconsciously, blurted that they were super close, even seeing each other naked referring to the spring incident. Sakura, naturally, misunderstood. The two quickly clarified. Sakura, in the end, understood both sides. Now settled, Taku asked Sakura what she wanted to discuss. She informed him that after he destroyed the Odo's Guild, the Hunter Association's top brass knew about it. Sakura observed that the president himself seemed to be handling the matter, investigating Taku behind the scenes. She wondered if Taku knew the president personally. Taku, lacking the original Taku's memories, had no idea how the president knew him. Sakura didn't know the president's intentions. Many bad rumors circulated. Now, 2 S-rank hunters were present. Sakura suspected they were monitoring Taku. Kiko interjected, stating she wasn't there for that. nor had she heard anything about it. She warned Taku that her sister had left the association due to its suspicious nature, and she herself had only joined for help. Taku should be extremely careful. As they discussed S-rank hunters monitoring Taku, Kiko immediately thought of Sae, who had been at the ceremony. Sae suddenly entered, startling them, saying she had merely waited for them to finish. Sakura immediately asked if Sae was at the school to monitor Taku. Sae denied it, then shocked everyone by hugging Taku, saying she had always wanted to see him. She knew he had lost his memory but still wished to be with him. This intrigued Taku. He genuinely wanted to know more about the real Taku. Absurd as it seemed, he asked Sae to tell him about his past. Sae agreed, but on one condition: Taku had to take her on a date. Taku, left with no choice, wondered how to conduct a date. Such things were foreign to him. His few shopping trips with El Weiss weren't dates. But he desperately needed to know about the real Taku. He hoped for the best. After a few minutes, Sae arrived, chic and attractive in her casual outfit. She immediately asked for his opinion, having put much effort into her look. Awkwardly, Taku said she looked good. Despite her closeness making him uncomfortable, he maintained his composure. This was his only path to information. As their date unfolded, another guild spotted them, wondering if Taku was dating both Sakura and Sae. If so, he was a legend. The guild debated interfering, then decided against it. Back with Taku and Sae, they were at a cafe. Sae, attempting maturity, pondered a new frappuccino or a stronger drink. Taku, to help, offered to order the same as her. Their date progressed well. Sae insisted he drop the polite language, which caused awkwardness. As they grew comfortable, Taku finally dared to ask where they met. Sae explained they had met at a gathering for children with high mana aptitude, and they had simply gotten along. Did he really have that much mana before? Taku wondered. Sae affirmed he had, far more than her. But if Sae spoke truth, why had the real Taku allowed Adaki to bully him? As the date continued, Taku pondered the identity of this body's true owner. After the cafe, they relaxed on the grass. Taku couldn't quite describe the situation. Sae clearly missed the real Taku. Taku apologized, saying that if the real Taku were here, this would be a treasured memory. In the midst of their peaceful afternoon, two unknown individuals rushed toward them, intent on attacking. Taku quickly shielded himself and Sae. To his surprise, it was C's plan. She had grown suspicious of Taku, whose magic was too powerful for an average person. Taku explained his memory loss had somehow granted him these abilities, but Sae rejected this. Even with high mana aptitude, she argued, his constitution wasn't suited for magic. The real Taku could never use magic. This confused Taku. Sae continued, saying his memory loss made no difference unless he was a different person with magic suited to his body. Sae demanded her friend back. If he didn't, she wouldn't forgive him. Enraged, Sae launched a deadly attack. Taku, caught in the chaos, was unsure how to react. Memories of training with El Weiss flooded back. He often failed at magic control. El Weiss reminded him. He wouldn't be able to use populated areas. To encourage him, El Weiss suggested his abundant mana made control difficult. Instead of trying to directly hit a target, he should consider the surroundings, keeping them safe. This sparked an idea in Taku. El Weiss, watching him go, was pleased. People who controlled magic well, she believed, were kind. If Taku, a complete stranger, was trying to save them, he would surely succeed. These memories gave Taku strength. C's fire monster attacked. Taku repelled it, trying to reason with Sae, but she refused to listen. The fight intensified, Taku struggling to survive. He noticed C's swift attacks, her combat experience evident. She used high-level magic, yet inflicted no visible damage to the surroundings, demonstrating delicate control, targeting only what was intended. Fire magic was notoriously difficult to control, yet Sae wielded it freely, a testament to her prominence. Taku knew defeating her would solve this, but Sae was thinking of Taku, consumed by anger. He felt responsible. He couldn't bring himself to attack her. How could he make her listen? C's suspicion grew as Taku moved unlike the real Taku, who lacked such reflexes and couldn't use magic. This man, though he looked like Taku, was entirely different. The thought drove Sae to near madness. In the chaotic fight, Sae recalled her childhood with Taku. He was the only one who loved her flames, even as she hated them. This moved Sae. Since then, she had worked tirelessly to ensure her flames would never again burn Taku. If this was truly Taku's body, she vowed, she would never forgive anyone who tried to control her beloved. Though she wanted to avoid it, she had no choice but to unleash her flames to force this faker out of Taku's body. Before she incinerated everything, Taku leaped, pinning her to the ground. Sae was losing control. Increasing her output further would be disastrous. Taku urged her to calm down, slowly pouring his mana into her, taking control of her magic. Yet the output continued to rise. Any more, and Sae would be fatally burned. To soothe her, Taku said that if she truly loved the real Taku, she should stop forcing it. It would only end badly. To ease her mind, Taku revealed the truth. Her suspicions were correct. He wasn't the real Taku, but this body was Taku's. He promised to return it. Sae remained agitated, but Taku, with immense patience, assured her it was okay. He, too, wanted the real Taku to return. His smile reminded Sae of their childhood. Slowly, she began to trust him. The control magic vanished, and Sae regained control before Taku could. Suddenly, Sae burst into tears. It was still hard to accept that the person before her wasn't the friend she knew. She thought she had been calm, but she hadn't handled it well. It wasn't the right time to meet. She hadn't improved as much as she hoped. Now calmer, Sae asked Taku to explain everything, to tell her who he was. After several minutes, Sae and her subordinates understood. He had been summoned to another world, saved it, died, and awoke in Taku's body. But how could he prove this body was truly Taku's? He had no access to the real Taku's memories. He informed Sae that one of Taku's friends had mentioned Taku always supported her, keeping track of her activities even when they were apart. Sae blushed, touched by Taku's consistent thoughtfulness. Now enthusiastic, Sae offered to help Taku return his friend's body. It was a lot to take in, but she would try to believe him. She vowed to investigate properly. First, she asked his real name. To her surprise, it was also Taku. For simplicity, Sae decided to just call him Taku. Using his family name would be too complex to explain. Did he have any ideas how to return Taku's body? Based on Kiko's insight that souls wandered where they had attachments, Taku had researched his past, questioned his parents, but found no leads. He wanted to get closer to Sae, hoping she could reveal more about the real Taku. Sae instructed him to meet her at a specific mountain location at 10 the next morning. Taku was shocked. It was deep in the range. Sae urged him to trust her, promising an explanation tomorrow and to tell no one of his destination. The next day, Taku arrived. Sae immediately led him inside, hoping to trigger some memory. The place was a ruin, unused for years, a research facility where Taku and she were raised. This confused him. Sae explained that as a child, she hadn't understood their research. When she was 7, the Hunter Association investigated and closed it down. All she knew was that they gathered people with high mana here. She hoped he would regain some memory. She had also heard Taku died at 6, so seeing him on the association's video had been a shock. Whether his body was truly Taku's, she had found her answer when clinging to him in the park. Touch couldn't lie about memories. She continued. After the facility closed, parentless children like them were adopted by the association. She thought Taku was adopted too. His parents' silence, she implied, meant he shouldn't trust them. Taku initially resisted this idea, but Sae made him realize the association wouldn't entrust gifted children to untrustworthy guardians. Though it might be true, his parents' love felt genuine, saddening him. Once suspicion took root, it was hard to stop. His relationship with his parents as Yamato Taku had been poor, but this felt different. He could truly feel their love. If he had lived longer, worked harder as Yamato Taku, would he have better understood people's emotions? But there was no point dwelling on it now. He needed to move forward. As they ventured deeper, monsters had appeared, likely due to the facility's disrepair. He needed to be careful not to damage it further. Fighting together, Taku was amazed by C's skill. She matched his movements, despite her frontline experience, adeptly switching between support and attack, clearly experienced in group combat, a skill he hoped to learn. As the fighting continued, SAE noticed the unusual number of monsters. A large-scale gate break must have occurred elsewhere, threatening serious damage to the facility. Taku, believing he had found a clue here, vowed to let nothing stand in his way. They cleared the monsters quickly. As they roamed, Taku's memories returned, fragments of a shared past with SAE, burying a time capsule as children. This, he thought, might help. Before he could check, SAE called out, "Another monster." Taku dispatched it with his weapon. SAE felt she was barely keeping up, despite being an S-rank hunter. She knew she should report this to the association, but she felt guilty for setting Taku up yesterday. She chose to be considerate. As she pondered, Taku wondered about his sudden visions. Were they Taku's memories, or was Taku trying to tell him something? The information room was bare, as if their memories had been stolen. Taku asked SAE if she remembered burying a time capsule. She was shocked, not expecting him to remember. But after he explained his visions, SAE recalled something important. While searching for a burial spot, they found a door to a basement, but a worker had restricted entry, claiming dangerous materials. They had buried the capsule in the courtyard instead. Before checking the capsule, SAE decided to explore the basement. As they entered, a cold air enveloped her, as if she were uncovering forbidden knowledge. With each step, she felt the weight of her past, her precious memories crumbling. Taku reassured her he would do something about it. As their conversation grew calmer, a dark aura enveloped the entire place. Taku immediately investigated. To his surprise, the demons who had been watching him were here. They hadn't expected Taku to be here either. But now, Taku felt it was time for brute force to make them reveal everything. Thank you for watching.